What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jared. Welcome to the 6.0 Bros YouTube channel. And today we're talking about our 6.7 Powerstroke. And actually we're going to be talking about which year's 6.7 Powerstroke you should buy if you're in the market. But first, if you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Check out our other videos and drop your comments down below. What year's 6.7 Powerstroke do you favor? Now, right before we get into the rest of this, I'm going to separate this into basically three generations: first, second, and third. Third generation being the 17 and newers. We're going to exclude the 2020 6.7 for now because I haven't had time to research it enough prior to making this video. I do plan to continue to update this and make more videos about this topic for those that are in the market looking for them, along with a comparison of what I think about the 6.7 versus the 6.0 Powerstroke in the future. So the first generation 6.7, we're going to go 11 to 14. The second is the 15 and 16s, and then the third is 17 and newer. Again, the 20s I do believe have some changes coming, and I didn't get time to educate myself enough on those before this video, so stay tuned for that update. Now first, we're going to talk about stuff that is all of the 6.7 Powerstrokes to date. And first off, some of their unique features. One, these new trucks all have VGT turbos. They have exhaust brakes integrated into the system from factory. They also have a unique exhaust and intake manifold setup, whereas the exhaust manifold is in the inside of the V, and the intake manifold is actually basically the valve cover and inserts into the cylinder head where you would typically have an exhaust manifold. Also, this is Ford's first in-house built diesel, so that is unique to the 6.7. The 6.4, 6.0, and 7.3, 6.9 IDI as well were all built by International Navistar. So this is Ford's first attempt, and they seem to have hit a pretty big home run. Now, the fuel injection system on this truck is a common rail injection. It does feature a factory lift pump, which other manufacturers do not do at this point yet. Those are upgraded options from the aftermarket for those trucks. So as a factory lift pump, which goes to a CP4 pump. Now, as for emissions equipment, this whole big topic, we're not going to get into delete versus not delete, legality, RPM Act, all those things right now. I have another video on that if you're interested in hearing about that, and I do plan to do an update in the near future. But for emissions, we have EGR cooler, we have a DPF, we have SCR, which is the exhaust treatment that goes into it. So this does use DEF fluid. In the Fords, the DEF tank is right by the fuel tank. Unfortunately, some early 6.7 owners mixed up the two and had some pretty costly repairs. Injection systems on these can go upwards of $10,000, including labor, all installed. So very expensive injection system. Now, some problems, starting with the problem that is every 6.7 Powerstroke and a lot of the newer Duramaxes as well. The CP4 pump is known to fail. What happens when a CP4 pump fails is it then takes metal shavings through the rest of your fuel system. So you need to do fuel logs, fuel lines, and your fuel injectors when you replace this, along with a new CP4 pump, and they're not cheap either. This is a pretty well documented issue. Ford does not have near the failure rate, partially due to the factory lift pump supplying fuel to the CP4 pump, helping prevent it from ever running dry. But be very careful about what kind of fuel you run in these things. Bad fuel can start to damage the CP4 pump and give you a costly bill down the road. Now, as for the other issues we're talking about to help come to the conclusion of what's the best year 6.7 Powerstroke, we're going to go into some year-specific things, starting with the 11 to 14s. Now, the biggest problem here for the 6.7, as many of you probably can already guess or already know, is the 11s. There were valve issues with valves actually breaking and causing catastrophic failure to the engine. A lot of people have had to have whole engines replaced because of this. There was a flaw, from my understanding, in the material actually used to make the valve that caused this failure. And a lot of people thought it was broken glow plugs that were causing it, but in turn, it's actually the valve that falls and eventually breaks the glow plug, and that's why people thought it. 2012, that issue seems to have been pretty much fixed. It doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. However, something to just be leery of. My understanding is the cylinder head valve issue was pretty much strictly an 11 issue, but I do believe, and don't quote me on this, but I think there were continued changes I know in 2015 there was a revision to the cylinder heads, I think beefing them up a little bit, but by 2015 problem completely resolved, and it seems that 13 and 14 also took care of a lot of the issues the 6.7 was already having. While we're talking issues, since this video is mainly issues, the 6.7 Powerstroke is a reliable engine. This is a great truck. There are some issues with it, don't get me wrong, like any engine out there, but for the most part, the 6.7 Powerstroke, even the quote-unquote problem years, were really reliable trucks, and pretty much all of the issues you can fix, so it's not that big of a deal in the end. Moving on, in 11 and 12, there were turbocharger issues. They used a ceramic bearing in this single sequential turbo thing. It's basically two compressor wheels back to back that are on one turbine shaft, and they did not do well with the ceramic bearings that were initially used. Later they were upgraded, I believe for 13 and 14 they were steel bearings and proved to be much more reliable than the early ceramic ones. Now, still some issues you can have is overspinning of this. It's a small turbo, I believe it's only like 52 millimeters. For comparison, a stock factory 6.0 Powerstroke ranged anywhere from 57 millimeters in the later years, it's like 56.5 or something, to 59 millimeters in the early year 6.0 Powerstrokes. So we're talking a really small turbo. What that does give you is it gives you a lot of throttle response immediately because it's a small charger and doesn't take long to light. But what it doesn't do for you is, in turn, is it doesn't have that same top-end performance other turbos have with a more standard VGT style in a single compressor wheel. Again, later year trucks seem to have fixed this. 13, 14, again, pretty reliable trucks from what I know in the turbocharger department. But something to bear in mind is that you do lose top end, and they're easy to overspool when you get some of the race tunes that are out there. Again, we're not going to go into deleting or any of that stuff at this time, just stating for those high race, high horsepower applications, that factory turbo in the early years is not going to be very durable to some of those more abusive conditions. Again, also I have seen reports of glow plug issues in the 11s and 12s, seem to have been fixed for 13 and 14 and so on. So if you do get one of the early ones in 11 or 12, I would definitely recommend replacing your glow plugs with the most updated part number, just to make sure that you don't have any issues. Again, if one of them were to break off, this could cause significant damage and give you a costly bill down the road. Now we jump forward to the 2015, which is what our truck here on the channel is, a 2015 6.7 Powerstroke, has 89,000 miles on it. This is a Lariat. So I'm going to be a little biased in what I think is the best year to buy. Changes for the 2015s were revisions to the cylinder heads. The CP4 pump is able to push more fuel than the earlier one. I don't know the exact difference, but it does have a little more fuel volume available to it. Probably the biggest change to the 2015s is that you have more of a standard GT37 style turbo. It's very similar to the 6.0 Powerstroke turbo, at least in its function and overall design. It has a unique turbine housing that has, for the whole setup on this, I'll see if I can't insert a picture of that, probably from our sponsor TurboTime USA. I'll probably steal a picture from them to put it in the video somewhere here. And the outlet, the compressor housing that bolts onto it is slightly different to accommodate what's in the engine bay here. Now the 2015s and newers don't have any of the problems that, as far as glow plugs or dropping valves, any of those, they seem to have revised those. The turbocharger issue has been resolved. We also upped horsepower from 400 horsepower and 800 pound-feet of torque, which is up from the original release of like 390 and 735 or something like that. They originally released that, and then I think GM came along with a little more horsepower. Ford, not to be beat out, turned around and upped theirs to 400 and 800 pound-feet of torque, respectively, to maintain best in the market. So we went to 440 horsepower and 835 pound-feet of torque. And again, most of that was probably taken care of via injector upgrade, the CP4 upgrade, and the turbo itself probably being the single biggest factor in that ability. Now these later trucks do have just a slight bit of lag over the early ones, but it is very manageable, very dailyable, and odds are if you have even a mild tune on it, you are going to notice virtually no increase in lag from it. Now moving forward in 2017, Ford did another upgrade, keeping the horsepower at 440, I believe, and going up to 935 pound-feet of torque. I will insert the correct figure here, probably up here somewhere will be the exact number. I left my notes at home. I just got off work making this video, so I don't have all my research right beside me. So the 2017s were the first year of the Illumi-Duties. It has a slightly different intake manifold setup, and there's a lower and an upper one, so it's slightly revised on the newer trucks. Bear that in mind. Also, there's a slightly revised air intake system on these trucks as well from the earlier style ones. Now, I do want to say, guys, this was not an all-inclusive video. This does not have every change. This video is meant to have some horsepower specs. I'll try to insert some noteworthy things that I may have missed when I review my notes when I get home. And if I can dig up any quick information on the 20 model years or anything I'd like to add, I'll do a screen at the end of this video with just things I think are noteworthy. As for which year 6.7 Powerstroke to buy, in my personal opinion, I would say they're all great. The early years, my only real knock on them, besides the cylinder head issue with the valves, would be the small turbo. There's retrofit kits out there to upgrade that to a newer style turbo, so that's available. I think they're all great. I do like the 2015s, and I like the manual exhaust brake activation that this has, which is a nice feature. I really enjoy that, being able to turn that on and off as I please. But they're all great trucks that you can all upgrade any of the issues with. You can essentially make an 11 or 4 through 14 do everything this does. The CP4 pump you can change out, the turbo you can change out. You can do the cylinder heads to correct that issue if you're worried about it, and obviously replace the glow plugs. But I would say as new of a truck as you can afford. 13s and 14s I feel are very reliable without needing to do a whole bunch of stuff to. Yeah, I feel like they're very turnkey trucks. The 11 and 12s, I'd be worried about turbos, and I would be worried about the cylinder head thing. Again, I do think 12s were fine, but I would also definitely change glow plugs on the 11s and 12s prior to doing a whole lot of driving, just to be on the safe side. My pick, guys, in the end would be 15 and newer. Again, though, I think all of these 6.7s are great trucks, so I hope this video helps some of you guys out. I do plan to release another video talking about what to look for when buying a 6.7 Powerstroke, some of my regrets as far as my purchase here, and what's bitten me a little bit after the purchase, and some things that hopefully help you prevent running into the same issue, like leaking vacuum pumps, lower oil pans. So some things to bear in mind. That video is coming up, guys. We do have a tow build plan for this truck. It will not stay a factory truck, guys. We're going to do a tow build. Those of you that have been following the channel for a while already know about my built 6.0. It is currently at the shop. Something happened. Update video coming soon for that, but we're going to get that back on the road, and we're going to make even more horsepower with it and go even faster at the track, and probably still do a tow video or two. But this is the official new tow build, so I hope you guys enjoyed this upload. Give this video a big thumbs up, drop those comments down below, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next upload.